Hey guys, as I mentioned in my last video, I am taking a short break from Path of Exile until the next league, and I have been playing Last Epoch, not the first time, but this is the first time I'm enjoying the Last Epoch this much. And in this video I wanted to talk about the build that I'm doing, the evolution of the build, and just very cool skill synergy, and maybe give like a quick comparison to PoE skill system, and why I think in Last Epoch it also has a lot of build viability and interesting things. So this isn't going to be a Last Epoch review. If you want to know too long didn't watch kind of, Last Epoch is definitely worth it. So I'm gonna talk about how this build came to life. Currently I'm level 71 and this is a minion build. This is an animate weapon, animate guardian kind of build. If you know from Path of Exile, this is exactly like animate weapon, animate guardian. So how the build came to be, I actually wanted to play with multi-strike. And multi-strike I saw from the trailer, from the new patch trailer, that it can also proc smite. So I started leveling this, and while leveling I was using Rive, whatever it's called, and I saw that it can summon these forged weapons on kill. So that seemed very cool, because these forged weapons also copied my weapon stats. There are many things that I'm still not sure how exactly it works, but I just found it to be pretty cool, and I saw that we are doing pretty good damage. So I thought, how can I make these forged weapons be summoned not on kill, because on a single target on a boss I couldn't even summon them. So then later on I discovered that Warpath can actually summon them. But it takes quite a lot of points to get to that, and basically every 5 seconds it summons one forged weapon. But unfortunately, forged weapon by default lasts for 20 seconds. You can extend their duration. And you can also increase the frequency at which we get summoned, which is not affected by cooldown recovery speed. So it takes around 2 seconds to summon one, which is clunky, and you have to be channeling all the time. You can lower the channeling cost, but you have to be channeling for full 2 seconds to summon one weapon. And currently I can have 12 of those. So it would take forever to summon those. So I tried to find another way to summon those weapons faster. And then I discovered that multi-strike, the skill that I wanted to play from the start, actually can do that. Maybe a little backtrack, you have to actually spec into Forge Guard. Because Forge Guard unlocks the Forge Strike skill, which actually, maybe I should have started how the skill system works. You got the basic skills, and then you can specialize the skills, and then once you specialize into the skill, it has its own passive tree. So the Forged Strike skill is the one that summons those forged weapons, or at least by default it can do that. In combination with other skills, the other skills basically summon a weapon from the Forged Strike. It's kind of hard to explain, but the Forged Strike forged weapons use other modifiers from the Forged Strike skill, like the passive modifiers. I discovered that multi-strike can actually either proc Forged Strike, like an actually proc it, or like the multi-strike has its own stacks, and it can consume those stacks to summon equal amount of forged weapons. So I thought, I'm gonna use multi-strike, I'm gonna attack like 3 times in this case, use Forged Strike skill to consume those 3 stacks to summon 3 weapons at the same time, in addition to its own chance to summon a weapon on hit. It has 25% chance to on hit to summon a forged weapon. So I was using multi-strike for a very long time, getting 3 stacks, summoning weapons pretty fast, and wanted a fast attacking weapon as well, but being in melee is kind of annoying. You can even do this, you can take this thing, which gives you up to 12% chance to summon a forged weapon when you use a multi-strike, when you are at maximum stacks. But it's kind of difficult to maintain that maximum stack while going between enemy packs. So this wasn't very useful in the end. There's also another point which basically consumes all your multi-strike stacks and procs Forged Strike, which still wouldn't really summon many weapons. You would still have pretty low chance to summon those weapons on hit, and it would take a while to get back to the maximum stacks. So I just was using this heated forge, getting stacks for multi-strike, and then using the Forged Strike. By the way, that's how the Forged Strike looks. The Forged Strike manually. But as a minion build, I don't really do much damage. In addition, multi-strike is also able to proc smite. And what smite does, it actually heals. Smite gives heal, and it heals you and nearby allies, which you can boost quite a lot. However, with the issue with Smite, against the boss it doesn't proc Smite, because it needs an extra target to proc Smite. So I wanted to experiment a bit more, and now going to the, I guess, final stage of the build, or maybe one of the final stages. Once you get enough levels and spec enough into this, you can actually increase the chance at which you proc those forged weapons when using Forged Strike, increase the attack speed, lower the cooldown, or even remove the cooldown completely, but then increase the mana cost quite a lot. So my current idea is to just use Forged Strike like manually with high chance to proc weapons. But as you can see, on a boss is actually completely fine. But the mana sustain, there is no mana flash, and it's actually pretty difficult to get mana sustain. So I'm also using a rebuke, which is like a channeling shield buff thing, which can increase your mana recovery rate, mana regeneration. So this does boost my mana regen a bit. You can actually see 12 mana regen per second. When I'm using that, it goes to 20, which is still not enough. But this also, while I'm channeling, I'm taking 80% less damage, and I'm gonna be boosting that a bit more, leveling that a bit more. And this thing, while I'm channeling, is also healing nearby allies. So actually, let me try to summon. See, that's the issue. While clearing enemies, the chances is actually pretty low. I actually have higher chance to summon those weapons, when hitting a boss or rare enemy. So you can see these weapons some of them can be empowered, and they become like these axes, which do a bit more damage. I'm not sure how much more. And by the way, you can command them by pressing A, which is very handy and very convenient. So now I'm basically testing this method. I wish that in PoE we had training dummy. Of course, we don't see numbers in PoE, but still, that would be so convenient. This training dummy is a normal enemy, and I have lower chance to proc on a normal enemy. If this was a boss or rare, I would have 85% chance to proc summon a weapon. And it seems fine to maintain up to 12 weapons against the bosses. And then I can just channel this to recharge mana a bit and heal everyone around and get damage mitigation. Now another thing to this build is Manifest Armor, which is like an Animate Guardian. And this thing hits like a truck. So first of all, this minion copies my armor, helmet, boots and gloves. And once you spec into that, you can make it do a lot more damage. You can also, it doesn't copy the weapon until you pick this node. Once you pick that, then it uses the mace, but it copies your equipped weapon stats. So this build scales a bit different than, I guess, typical minion build, because you want actually a high damage weapon. Normally on a minion build you would try to get as much minion damage and minion regen or minion leech or something like that, or flat minion damage as possible on your weapon. But on this you actually want a good base damage weapon, and then try to get minion damage if possible, or minion melee physical, or minion physical damage is a bit confusing too. So now this thing hits like a truck. Actually, look at this. It has a cyclone ability, it hits for like 25k. And that's not counting all the other debuffs. It can also shred enemy armor. Each time it shreds armor, it reduces enemy armor by 100 flat. I'm not gonna go into stats how they work in this game, because it's a bit different than in Path of Exile. But yeah, this guy alone is hitting for a lot. It's also a debuffer. You can also spec into it to have like more stats from your gloves or from your boots. You can make it taunt if you want. This is like more like a skill tree, because it gains the willing ability, which can clear multiple enemies, but it does less damage per hit. It can also do the spell Forge Breath. I haven't tried this because it's a spell. It wouldn't really have as much damage. It can also spec into tankiness nodes, even get damage through your armor basically. And now the last part of this, sort of the last. I was looking how else to improve this build, how else to give him damage, and there is a javelin skill. The javelin, I believe, is a new skill. Javelin. And I actually spec'd into Javelin 3, which throws only one javelin into the sky, it drops into the ground and creates a banner. Or in this case it's called Battle Standard. And this battle standard is actually, I spec'd into it, when nearby enemies it also procs Smite, and Smite heals me and nearby allies. And in addition to that, this banner, as I call it banner, is also healing nearby allies. And enemies can also pick it up and carry the flag on their back while providing aura to my allies. In addition to healing, this thing is also giving damage and armor to all allies. And the damage it scales from attunement. Attunement is an attribute which is also needed for our minion skills. So this has so much synergy with this build idea. You throw the javelin, it heals, it uses it automatically procs smite, which also heals. You can also actually spec into smite, and like you throw a javelin, you can spec into smite, and the smite could turn into lightning arcs, lightning bolts, and then the javelin basically would proc it automatically. You can do all sorts of cool things like that. What I still want to improve is I need to get better armor to get +2 or +3 to force strike. Finish picking up all the nodes from here, maybe refund out of that. I'm still not sure how to sustain mana better, or just in general for clean speed it's kind of fine. I don't need to have 12 weapons all the time. I did also spec into lunge. Lunge is like a movement ability, like a dash, and it is very convenient to move between enemy packs. Actually, until I spec'd into lunge, I was having issues summoning enough weapons because my 1 or 2 weapons would just go to enemies before I can reach them and just kill them, so I could not hit with multi-strike to get the stacks, which only lasts for like 2 seconds, to then summon more weapons. But once I got lunge, I can dash between enemy packs faster and hit them with the force strike and summon more weapons. You can also spec into lunge to also proc smite, which I did. So when I lunge into enemies, you can see the smite striking from the sky, healing me and nearby allies as well. Unfortunately, I don't have enough spec spots to spec into smite to heal for more, but I already have 2 other sources of heal. I got the javelin, which heals, and I also got a rebuke, which also heals nearby enemies. And then I got smite, which I proc when I lunge. Also, when I lunge, I debuff enemies to do less damage. Up to, what is this, up to 18%, because I apply 3 stacks with 1 lunge. Like in Path of Exile, we don't have as many cool interacting skills between each other, like synergistic skills. Like we mainly use one skill and just spam it non-stop, and then other stuff like auras or like debuffing the skills with like Wave of Conviction plus Combustion and Curse. But in here, every skill, well, most skills can interact with other skills and create very interesting combos. Surely this isn't a very new concept. I believe in Diablo 3 we also have that thing, but in Diablo 3 you don't make a build. You just pick up the items that make the build. You know, the set items. In here we don't really have set items. Well, we do have set items, but the build is basically not determined by your items in Last Epoch. There are some uniques or set items that can be build enabling, but for the most part you make the build and then supplement that build with items. While in Diablo 3 you get the items that make the build and you don't really make the build, you just follow the build based on the items that are granted. And yeah, I think this system is a lot better than in Diablo 3. I wouldn't say that this is better or worse than in Path of Exile, it's just different. And if you love experimenting with builds, exploring with the build ideas, so far you like what you're hearing, definitely give this game a try. It's not a free game. In my opinion, I would definitely say 100% worth if you are enjoying making the builds. I personally don't quite like the graphics in this game. The graphics are not the most important thing, of course, but there's something about the art style that I prefer even in Volson or from Path of Exile than in this game. But it's coming along, it's being improved. It's still not fully released game. It's still early access, I believe. Currently there's no multiplayer yet, but multiplayer is tricky to implement correctly. And the end game, just to give you a quick rundown, the end game is like a monolith system. It's like a mapping. You go into let's say level 75 area. Each area have like a completion bar. You have to complete the bar and do the quest until you unlock until you unlock blessings. And blessings basically buff you, like give you a global buff. And each monolith, each run is let's say like a map, but much shorter and much faster, which is also a good thing because You don't want to spend 20 minutes in a single map, you just get tired. You can also select like rewards, you don't need to roll it. So it does have its pros and its cons as well. It's a bit more limiting. As far as I know, it doesn't have like the very end game boss yet that you need to work towards your way through, but there are like empowered monoliths or whatever they're called, which is like a very end game map, like comparing to tier 16 maps in Path of Exile, I believe. That's what I have been told. I'm not there yet. I'm level 71, max level is level 100. I'm gonna keep playing this build a bit more. I still want to improve it. Still want to see what kind of uniques I can get. After this, I'm probably gonna do another build. I'll definitely play Last Epoch a bit longer this time and post a couple more videos maybe. Oh, by the way, if you're planning on buying this game, consider doing that through my Nexus store. You're not gonna pay any extra, and I'm gonna get a small cut when you buy the game from this store. You can actually just search all the games available in here, not necessarily what's shown in here. And yeah, it's currently like $35, and I would get like $5, I believe. So it's a small cut, but it does support me as well. If you're gonna be buying game, consider doing that through my Nexus store. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.